Tears, threats, and entreaties proving powerless to shake the saint's resolution, he was imprisoned in one of the towers of the castle, where he had to suffer cold, hunger, and every sort of privation. His two sisters, Marietta and Theodora, to whom he was tenderly attached, vainly endeavored by their affectionate caresses to induce him to yield to his mother's wishes, but they were themselves won to a life of perfection, and both eventually died in the odor of sanctity, one as a Benedictine abbess, the other in the married state as Countess of San Severino. Through their instrumentality, Thomas was enabled to obtain books and clothes from his brethren at Naples. During his captivity, which lasted considerably more than a year, he managed to commit to memory the entire Bible and the 5 books of the Sentences, the theological textbook of the time. His earliest writings are said to belong to the same period. On the arrival of his brothers, Thomas's constancy was put to a yet more terrible trial. The 2 young officers conceived the infernal project of introducing a woman of evil life into his chamber, but with a flaming brand snatched from the hearth, the saint indignantly drove her from his presence. With the same brand he then traced a cross upon the wall, and, casting himself on his knees before it, besought of God to grant him the gift of perpetual chastity. As he prayed, he fell into an ecstasy, during which 2 angels appeared to him and girded him with a miraculous cord, saying, "We are come from God to invest thee with the girdle of perpetual chastity. The Lord has heard thy prayer, and that which human frailty can never merit, is insured to thee by the irrevocable gift of God." The angels girded him so tightly that he uttered an involuntary cry of pain, which brought some servants to the spot, but Thomas kept his secret to himself, and only revealed it on his deathbed to his confessor, Brother Reginald, declaring that from that day the spirit of darkness had never been allowed to approach him. The girdle was worn by the saint till his death, and is still preserved at the convent of Chieri in Piedmont. By this time his family had discovered that his firmness would not be overcome by persecution. Footnote: in the 16th century a confraternity was established, called the Angelic Warfare, to obtain through the intercession of Saint Thomas the virtue of chastity. This confraternity still flourishes and has been enriched with many indulgences. Though unwilling to acknowledge themselves beaten, they connived at his escape, and, like Saint Paul, he was let down from the tower in a basket to the friars, who by appointment were waiting below. They carried off their rescued treasure to Naples, where he was immediately admitted to profession. One more attempt was made to shake his constancy by an appeal to the Pope, who summoned him to Rome, but the saint pleaded his cause so well that the Holy Father was convinced of the reality of his vocation. In order to satisfy his family, however, and to secure in an important post the services of so gifted a subject, the Pope proposed to make him abbot of Monte Cassino, whilst still continuing a Dominican. But St. Thomas implored so earnestly that he might be allowed to remain a simple religious in the order he had chosen, that His Holiness yielded, and strictly forbade any further interference with his vocation. To put him beyond reach of further molestation, the general of the order took him with him to Cologne, where he became the disciple of blessed Albert the Great, the renowned Dominican professor of the day. When St. Thomas found himself safe within the convent walls, he devoted himself with ardor to the work of his sanctification. His time was divided between prayer and study. His humility enabled him to conceal his vast powers of mind, and his absolute silence at all the scholastic disputations, rendered more conspicuous by his commanding stature and the portliness of his figure, led his companions to call him the dumb ox of Sicily. A good-natured fellow student offered to explain the daily lessons to him, an offer which the saint humbly and gratefully accepted. But one day the young teacher came to a difficult passage, which he interpreted wrongly. Then the saint's charity and love of truth triumphed over his humility, and, taking the book, he explained the passage with the utmost clearness and precision. His astonished friend begged in future to be the scholar, to which Thomas consented, on condition his secret should be kept.